In this next video, in the data visualization series, we're going to start from the beginning and talk about why do we want to be visualizing data in the first place. So in the beginning, there was you, and there was your data. And you're staring at each other going like, okay, how do we get to know each other? So here's my very strong recommendation of the first thing that you should do. Ask a question about your data, and then using that question, make a plot to answer that question. Whatever it is that you're asking, maybe there's a relationship between this one thing and this other thing that you think might exist, try to make the simplest plot you can think of to answer that question, to visualize it in some way. The reason you're doing this is because oftentimes our data set is complicated. And so a lot of the task of analyzing and understanding the data set is aggregating complex data by slicing it among different dimensions, trying to look at relationship between one thing and another thing, or something a little more simpler than just looking at the entire data set. In this way, we can hypothesize relationships and just really get to know our data in this way. By making this plot, you also gain a lot of intuition about your data set, and importantly, you can spot discrepancies. Maybe there's an instrument that was broken this one day you were collecting the data set. Maybe there is a recording that is just kind of a little bit off. Maybe you collected demographics data and one person just checked the wrong box and was filling out the form. Making a plot is one of the easiest ways to be able to spot the discrepancies so that you don't have that contaminate your analyses later on. Building intuitions about your data set is super important because it allows you to ask more and better questions, because this is not a one-step process. You're asking the question, making a plot, and then using that intuition to ask more and better questions, including motivating getting more data. Maybe the right thing for you to do at this point is not to call it quits and make a story out of it, but you realize, oh man, I really need more data. This is just simply not enough. Getting this intuition is a really, really important thing to do in every other part of the data analysis and data science pathway. And so I'm going to advocate for this cyclic process of asking questions in order to aggregate complex data, making plots, looking at it, learning about your data set in this very visual way so that you can ask a better question later on. The cyclic process is also super important because your data, just like a band of unruly children, will do crazy things if you let it. So I always recommend starting simple. If there's a scatter plot you can make, don't make a bit more complicated one. If there's a linear regression analysis you can run, don't run a more complicated one. Do the simple things first. And when you find the simple thing does not quite work, and more importantly, in what specific way does it not work? In what way is it lacking? Then you bring out the heavier machinery when there's a very specific good reason to do so. So when you are asking questions and making plots, you are going to iterate until there is a story to be told. And when that story is going to be told, you're going to be really refining your story, refining the questions you're asking so that the right questions to ask, not merely the first possible question that could be asked, so that you can then make a plot and tell a story that is a very compelling story to be told. So in the remainder of the videos, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about what actually goes into this kind of process, depending on what type of data you have, as well as some best practices so that you can actually do a really good job conveying and communicating your data and telling the story you'd like to be told.